Los Angeles Times analyzed something known as the Brady list. This is essentially a list of cops in Los Angeles who have been either accused or convicted of bad behavior, misconduct, criminal activity. And a lot of these people have not been fired. A lot of these people have served as individuals who testify in criminal cases. And now this question is coming up about whether or not prosecutors or defense attorneys will have access to this database, to this list, in order to ensure that justice is served in cases where these cops are involved. So to give you some more information about this, back in the early 2000s, there were reforms in the LAPD. Under Sheriff Baca, there was a ton of misconduct. And so when the new sheriff came in, they started compiling the Brady list, and the whole point was to kind of keep an eye on cops that might be doing things that are unlawful. Now, the secret sheriff's department list now includes about 300 deputies with histories of dishonesty and similar misconduct. Now, the most recent list that the LA Times was able to obtain was from 2014, so things may have changed since then, but here's what we know so far. Sheriff Jim McDonnell wants to give the names on the list to prosecutors who are required by law to tell criminal defendants about evidence that would damage the credibility of an officer called as a witness. So again, these are people who would testify in these cases. The deputies have been identified as potential witnesses in more than 62,000 felony cases since 2000. In many of those cases, the deputies' misconduct would probably have been relevant in assessing their credibility. Okay, so now let's break down some of the misconduct cases. In one case, there was a cop who lost evidence, and that evidence was a bloodied shirt. So he thought it would be a great idea to take taco sauce, spread it all over a different shirt, and then take photos of that and use that as evidence in a case.
He likes tacos?
I mean, okay. There's also other cases. One deputy pepper sprayed an elderly man in the face and then wrote a false report to justify arresting him.
No, cops assaulting citizens and then pretending the citizens assaulted them. I have never. A case like that, look, there's two different kinds of cases here. One is the idiot or corrupt cop, which some police departments actually do want to root out. I would actually say, and this is anecdotal, I don't have statistics based on this, but I would imagine that most police departments want to root out the corrupt cops. Okay, corrupt meaning I'm taking money, I'm doing this, or I'm a buffoon who's putting taco sauce all over the evidence. A lot of that'll get covered up, but in a lot of the cases, they don't want those cops, okay? Then there's a second kind of cases where, I beat the shit out of a guy, and then I pretended that he assaulted me or resisted arrest.
The brutality cases, and also the sexual misconduct cases, which are also listed in this Brady list. So one of the other examples was that another cop pulled over a stranger and received oral sex from her in his patrol car. He had alleged that it was completely consensual, but the woman complained about it the day after and said, no, it wasn't consensual, I was afraid. I'm talking about a uniformed cop with a gun, and I felt pressured. I didn't know what to do.
If you think a boss saying let's have sex is non-consensual, and it is, right? There's a power dynamic issue there. Might intimidate the woman, right? Or the guy, depending on the circumstance. Wait till you get a load of a cop asking for sex with a gun, okay? So he's got the gun on him. We've seen what cops do from time to time in America. Yes, that would be coercive. And besides which, she said immediately afterwards, no, I didn't agree to it.
Exactly. So look, at the heart of this issue is whether or not prosecutors will have access to the list in order to do their jobs properly. Because remember, if these cops have been found to make false reports or plant evidence or anything like that, well, that could really have an impact on the outcome of a trial, especially a criminal trial that they're testifying in. And what's happening is the police union is saying, no, we don't want any prosecutor to have any access to this whatsoever. Also keep in mind that the list includes several deputies still with the department who were convicted of crimes, one for filing a false arrest report and another who was charged with domestic battery but pleaded no contest to a lesser offense. And so if you take a look at this graph, it'll show you what the majority of misconduct cases involved. So dishonesty by far is the largest percentage there. There's also family violence, immoral conduct, stealing, and sexual misconduct as well.
So I want to give the sheriff's office here credit because it's easier to go after that first bucket that I talked about, the taco sauce guys and the guys dealing with the drug dealers and taking money on the side. It's harder to tackle the more systemic issue of violence against citizens and then lying about it, or coercive sex with citizens and then lying about it. And here they are taking it on. Now, almost every union in the country has been beat down, except the police union.
Yeah.
They are ferocious, and whereas the other unions could help use some help in actually representing their members against the corporate power, right? In the case of the police, there's no corporations, so no one to crush them. It's just their union versus the citizens, right?
Right. And by the way, I am in favor of unions, even the police union, but there needs to be bounds of reason.
Accountability.
There needs to be accountability, exactly. And so I don't want cops to needlessly lose their jobs when they haven't really done anything wrong. But in cases like this, where you're talking about false reports, when you're talking about planting evidence, when you're talking about sexual misconduct, I mean, really, you're gonna protect these individuals' jobs to the point where they're still able to have input in the outcome of a criminal case. And by the way, this statement by the union drives me insane. So the union representing the sheriff's deputies argues that giving prosecutors the names on the list would needlessly harm the careers of deputies and could jeopardize numerous criminal prosecutions in which they played a role. Needlessly harm their careers? Let me ask you guys something. If you are found guilty of any type of misconduct within your office, would you lose your job?
Yeah, and imagine you go walk into your boss's office. Look, I might have stolen a couple of $1,000s worth of equipment, but if you say that to people, it'll harm my career. Yeah, maybe then you shouldn't have stolen the thousands of dollars of equipment, right?
Yeah.
So it's a totally theoretical case, okay? So in this case, some of the stuff was the corruption that I'm talking about with the drug dealers, right? So thousands of dollars, and then you walk in and you go, what, you're gonna ruin my reputation by saying that I took money from a drug dealer? But you did take money from a drug dealer, right? So, and that's one of the many hypothetical cases, not in their case, not hypothetical, but real cases. So that's maddening for a second reason too. So you're saying people who might have been innocent but got prosecuted with the false evidence that these cops worked up on them, we shouldn't let them know because it might hurt the cops' reputation and career?
No, yes.
Yeah, of course we should let them know. By law, we have to let them know that they might have made up evidence against them.
Right, and not only that, they're concerned about the cops' career, but they're not concerned about making sure that justice is really served in these criminal cases. Because some of this evidence might be faulty, it might be planted, whatever it is. The witness testimony, if the cop is the one testifying, could be misleading, could be false, whatever it is. Someone could be found guilty of a crime they did not commit as a result of this misconduct. And their argument is, oh, this could jeopardize numerous criminal prosecutions. No, these criminal prosecutions are already jeopardized. Like, there's already an issue there.
And they should be jeopardized because we don't know if they were actually guilty or innocent. And by the way, the last part of this puzzle that's maddening is, so they've in some cases attacked, abused, etc., citizens. That's problem number one. Problem number two is they've might have put away people who were perfectly innocent by making up evidence. Problem number three is now a lot of guys who were guilty might have to go free because we don't know which evidence was reliable and which one wasn't.
Right.
So, and that's also terrible. That's also a miscarriage of justice. But you don't serve justice by covering up all the wrongdoing and saying some were innocent, some were guilty, let's just not tell them. That's not how America's supposed to work. So what has been happening is atrocious, but again, to give credit to the Sheriff's Department, and as we've told you, not all the cops are the same, not all the sheriff's officers are the same, and in this case, they are taking corrective action for which they should be complimented and lauded. TYT membership gets you commercial-free Young Turks. Download it, stream it, podcast it, get all the network shows, and support independent media. TYTnetwork.com/join.